Gold Rush exclusive. Juan to the rescue, as Tony Beets' broken belt, Woes, Halt production Gold Rush tonight, shows how a run of luck can stop on its heels, as Team Beets, led by patriarch Tony Beets, suddenly has a conveyor belt issue, and must have his son Kevin Beets, calls in Juan Ibarra, to fix the mechanical issue. Dawson Creek is where the Beets crew is working, and so far they are behind in their production numbers. Juan was formerly Todd Hoffman's mechanic, who now is on call to help Tony and Kevin with their mechanical issues. Tony is on a mission to boost his production and scouted a new remote Yukon wilderness spot, a fallow wash plant that he had his eye on, a 30-year-old, 35-ton trommel with a 40-foot drum on wheels that was abandoned. Tony picked it up for $400,000, and now this relic is the latest hunk of equipment in the Beets arsenal. Tony felt it was really well built. Kevin wasn't as sure on first looks. Gold Rush has a pretty long run, with the final landing on March 19. So we have some time there. TV Show's exclusive preview below reveals the headaches keep piling up for Tony Beets, whose use of the F-bomb shows he's a bit frustrated. Last episode, the Beets crew had to haul the heavy load, working from their base at Paradise Hill Camp. Tony and Kevin pulled together a 7-man crew to drive that new trommel to the tune of $60,000 a day. Mike Beets led the charge as Beets dragged his new purchase to where he needed it. This week, the issue is the decayed belt on the conveyor. Driving up to the site, Beets yells for Kevin and says, "The conveyor belt is too loose. For **** sake, shut her down. Gotta fix that ***ing belt." The narrator points out that if there's too much slack, the belt will shred to pieces rubbing against the metal frame. Kevin points out the crack and the extent of the damage as Tony advises him to call in Juan Ibarra. Kevin was one step ahead and had already called him in. The men realize that the drum is broken as Juan says, "Yeah, I think that's half a problem right there. This is not good. The tail pulley is broken." Juan explains the issue further and says, "So that the belt naturally is going to want to go to the looser side. This side's always loose, because the tail pulley's broken over here." Parker took a chance in Alaska with John Reeves of the Fairbanks Gold Company. They come to an accord to test drill some Cleary Creek land outside of Fairbanks. Fred Lewis has been running the lean surface dirt and dealing with one disappointment after another. Lack of gold production and flagging crew morale has Freddie Dodge's nephew Kendall and Fred trying to keep their team of veterans together. He also had to call Parker Schnebel for some advice. Bottom line, he needs to find more money to keep his crew paid. The $15,000 XRF gun brought in by wife Kara's dad to look for gold in drill samples is a last chance effort. Last episode we learned he needed to dig deeper to bedrock for any pay dirt worth sluicing, and Rick Ness is furthering his $100,000 gamble in the deep cut. He was halfway to his goal, and his strategy is to go deep, and he and Chris Cruz are following their gut and working hard to make sure this year doesn't follow last year's disappointing results. The last we saw with Rick, he hit an unexpected wall of bedrock, slowing his production. Tune in to see how the Beets clan fare, and if Rick Ness and Fred Lewis can catch up to Parker's haul for the season. Gold Rush airs Fridays at 9 p.m. on Discovery. Gold Rush exclusive. Juan to the rescue as Tony Beets' broken belt, Woes, Halt production as the winter chill descends on the rugged Klondike landscape. Tensions on the gold mining frontier have reached a boiling point. For Tony Beets, the once invincible gold kingpin of Gold Rush, things have taken a turn for the worse. The Beets family mining empire, which has seen its fair share of triumphs and setbacks, now faces one of its biggest hurdles of the season. An unexpected mechanical failure, one that could threaten the operation of his prized sluice boxes, puts Tony on the edge of a meltdown. But as the pressure mounts and production halts, a familiar face from the past steps in, Juan Ibarra. Juan's comeback couldn't have come at a more critical time. Catastrophic breakdown. It was supposed to be a routine day at the Beets mining site. The crew was hard at work, carefully orchestrating the delicate dance of moving tons of dirt through their sluicing system in pursuit of gold. Tony's operation is notoriously large-scale. His dredges and excavators stretch across the tundra, dwarfing anything nearby. Beets has always been known for his ability to push through the tough moments, refusing to let a problem stop his relentless pursuit of gold. But that morning, the infamous mechanical failure he dreaded had arrived. The motor of Tony's largest sluice box had suddenly malfunctioned, and when the diagnosis came through, it was far worse than expected. A crucial drive belt had snapped, rendering the system. Without the system up and running, Tony's entire operation would grind to a halt. The team, already working at full capacity, couldn't afford a major setback, especially with winter looming. Every day of downtime could cost thousands of dollars in lost potential gold, and the pressure was mounting on Tony to get things back on track. To make matters worse, Tony had no immediate access to the replacement parts needed to fix the system, nor did he have the technical expertise on site to tackle the repair. "Sometimes, this is what happens," Tony growled, looking at the broken machinery with frustration. "You plan, you prep, and then bam, you're stuck." As the crew struggled to keep things together, Tony began making frantic calls, hoping to find a solution. But time was not on his side. Enter Juan Ibarra. The reluctant hero known for his skill with heavy machinery and mechanical systems, Juan Ibarra had once been one of Tony's most trusted team members. A seasoned mechanic and operator, Juan had played a key role in keeping the Beets operation running smoothly for several seasons. However, after a series of personal and professional disagreements with Tony, Juan had left the Beets crew to pursue other ventures in the mining world. His exit had been amicable, but Tony had always regarded Juan as one of the best in the business, someone who could get things back on track when all hope seemed lost. So, when Tony found himself in desperate need of expertise, it was a no-brainer. He picked up the phone and made the call. "Juan, I need your help," Tony said, his tone softer than usual. "You know how important this is. Can you come?" Juan was in the middle of his own operation, but upon hearing the urgency in Tony's voice, he didn't hesitate. "I'm on my way," Juan replied. Within hours, Juan arrived at the Beets camp, looking every bit as rugged as when he'd left. Despite the tension between him and Tony in the past, it was clear that Juan was here for one reason: to get the job done. As soon as he surveyed the damage, Juan wasted no time. He took one look at the broken belt and the complicated mechanics of the sluice box and immediately began drawing up a plan of action. "This is going to be a tough fix, but it's not impossible," Juan explained, eyeing the parts they would need to get everything back on track. "We're going to need a new belt, but we'll also have to adjust the tension system to make sure it holds. It's going to be a couple of long days, but we'll get it done." Tony, who was typically all business and little patience, softened at the sight of Juan's confidence. It was clear that the Beets team would not be able to get production back on track without Juan's expertise. The tension builds as the hours ticked by. The stress of the situation continued to hang in the air. The crew had halted production, the sluicing system was down, and temperatures were steadily dropping. Every minute they lost meant a further delay in their gold haul for the season. While the team worked alongside Juan to remove the damaged parts and prepare for repairs, Tony's frustration grew. "I don't know how you put up with this," Tony grumbled, his patience wearing thin as they dealt with one delay after another. "This machine was supposed to run like a charm. And now look at us," stranded in the middle of nowhere. Juan, ever the professional, simply nodded. It's part of the job. It's not about the setbacks, it's about how you respond to them. As night fell, the crew gathered under the dim light of campfires and overhead lamps, awaiting Juan's next move. Tony, never one to admit defeat, stood watch, occasionally barking out orders. However, he also knew he needed Juan to get this right. Finally, after hours of labor, Juan and his team had all the necessary parts and were ready to attempt the repair. The plan was clear: remove the faulty belt system, install a new one, and then recalibrate the entire machine to ensure optimal performance. The pressure to succeed was immense, but Juan remained focused. As the machine roared back to life, there was a collective sigh of relief from the crew. "I told you we could do it," Juan said with a smirk, wiping sweat from his brow. For Tony, the moment was bittersweet. He knew that without Juan's help, the operation would have suffered an irreparable blow. While their past differences were behind them for now, there was no denying the unspoken truth. Juan was the only one who could have saved the day. A glimmer of hope with the sluice system back in action, the Beets operation fired back into full gear. Production resumed, and the steady hum of machinery once again filled the air. As the team worked into the night, the gold began to flow through the sluices, and the sight of yellow flakes in the bottom of the pans brought a smile to Tony's face. Despite the crisis that had threatened to derail the entire operation, the Beets crew managed to rally under the guidance of Juan Ibarra. His skill